Hey everyone. So for those of you that are familiar with SEO, you know that it's a rarity that Google gives us an advanced heads up when they're going to change something. Usually we find out after the fact and they don't necessarily even explain what they changed, but we got an email notice from Google the other day that they are letting us know in advance, for once, thankfully, about a change that's coming down the pike. There's going to be an algorithm change coming in the summer. It's going to be supposedly rolled out in July, and they're calling it the speed update. Now, speed has been taken into account in Google's ranking algorithms for quite some time. They claim just on desktop, although we have seen evidence that they are taking into account on mobile as well. So for a while now, we've been encouraging our clients to optimize their site speed both on desktop and mobile. So we're a little bit ahead and okay on this, but for those that aren't aware, site speed is very important to Google, and they are officially going to be incorporating it into their algorithm as of July of this coming year. So we sent out an email to all of our clients today telling them that, of course, to a degree, we've already been on top of this, but we are going to see if we can squeeze out even a few more points of site speed out of their responsive versions of their website in advance of July. And we are also now recommending that all of our clients and all of you too implement AMP on your website. AMP stands for Accelerated Mobile Pages. It is an alternate version of your website. So it's no substitute. Google has been very clear to say this. It's not a substitute for having a well-designed, fast-loading, responsive version of your website, but it is an alternative version that Google may choose to show in mobile search results instead of your responsive version. And it loads lightning fast. It's cached in advance and it just loads incredibly fast. So it's a great user experience. And Google may choose to show that in the search results instead of your responsive version of your website. So while it's still incredibly important to optimize the responsive version of your website for better speed in advance of this July update, we are also now encouraging people to implement AMP. If you have a WordPress site, this is, I don't want to say as simple as just adding a plugin, but you can add a couple of plugins to make this work. One is the AMP for WordPress plugin put out by Automatic, and the other that we recommend, if you have the Yoast SEO plugin, the Glue for Yoast plugin, which is, so there'll be a third plugin in the mix. So you'll have Yoast, you'll have the WordPress for AMP for WordPress plugin, and the Glue for Yoast plugin. Those three together will get you set up with AMP on a WordPress site. The Yoast Glue plugin will allow you to make some customizations to the AMP version of your website, and it will also add the necessary canonical tags, which is very important. It's really important to implement this correctly because otherwise you can end up with duplicate content, which is not SEO friendly. So the Glue for Yoast plugin will take care of the necessary rel canonical tag. And in the AMP for WordPress plugin, there's actually section 2 where you can configure your analytics. Google Analytics for AMP is actually implemented quite differently, and it is not included by default. So if you simply enable the AMP plugin, you will not be tracking traffic on your AMP pages. So we do recommend that you configure that in the analytics section of the AMP for WordPress plugin. And so basically, I just wanted to give everyone a heads up because it's a unique opportunity that Google actually lets us know about these things in advance. It's not usually the case. So they have been taking speed, to recap, they have been taking speed into account for quite some time now in their search algorithms, supposedly just on desktop, but now they are officially saying they are going to incorporate mobile page speed as a ranking factor as of July in mobile search. And so we are recommending that you not only optimize the responsive version of your website for better speed, but also implement AMP, Accelerated Mobile Pages, which is not a substitute for responsive, but another way of offering Google an opportunity to load your website lightning fast from Google end users, so load your website lightning fast from search results. And you'll actually, if you implement AMP, you get this little lightning bolt icon next to your website and search results. So that can definitely increase click-through rates by attracting people to your result, as opposed to someone next to you that doesn't have the AMP little lightning bolt icon. So as far as page speed optimizations, if you aren't already aware, Google has a tool called Google PageSpeed Insights. that you can run and test. You run your website through and test both your desktop and mobile speed and optimizations. Sometimes the speed, they changed it now that there's 2 fields on there. There's speed and optimization. Sometimes the speed metric doesn't work on their new version of their tool. It just shows the optimization, what they think of your level of speed optimizations on both the mobile and desktop versions of your website. So even if it doesn't show the speed, definitely run your website through that tool and see what they think of your your speed optimizations that you've implemented. It seems that if you can get a score of 80 or higher on both mobile and desktop, then that makes Google pretty happy on the optimizations front. And if you do want to test your actual page load time, which is important too, that's not just important for SEO, that's super important for conversion optimization. You know, from when page speed goes from 1 to 3 seconds, the probability of bounce increases 32%, and then, you know, just up and up and up from there. So you definitely want your website to load in 3 seconds or less. And if you can't get an estimate for that out of the Google PageSpeed Insights tool, we recommend GT Metrics, which is GTMetrix.com. That's a great tool. It'll give you your total page load time. It will give you a waterfall breakdown of every asset on the site and how long it takes to load, as well as your TTFB, time to first byte, which is your server response time. You know, it's also known as that. Google PageSpeed Insights will call it server response time. GT Metrics calls it TTFB, but basically that's the amount of time it takes for your web server to serve up the first byte of response to the browser. And that's really important because no matter how fast you make the rest of your images and code and scripts and everything load, if the server is feeding that information slowly, then your website's going to load slowly. So we always recommend digging into server response time, aka TTFB, first as a first level of page speed optimizations. So that can, you know, it can have a lot to do with your hosting. If you're on a shared hosting package, it's not likely that you're going to have a very good TTFB or server response time number because, you know, big hosts that sell very cheap shared hosting are notorious for loading tens of thousands of different websites on the same server, and there's just no way you're going to get a good response time out of that. So we do recommend either managed WordPress hosting from the whole variety of WordPress managed hosting options that are out there, or a VPS of your own so that you're not sharing web server resources with a lot of other websites. So if you do have a slow page load time in total, dig in first to that TTFB number, aka server response time. Google wants that to be 0.2 seconds or less, 200 milliseconds or less. So see what you can do to get that in place and fixed first. And that might include a hosting change. It might not, depending upon your situation. And then work on the rest of the code and script and caching and minifying and all the other recommendations that you'll see on those tools. But those will all not work as well if you don't fix any server response time issues first. So I just nerded out a lot there about that. But like I said, we just wanted people to have this heads up since it's rare that we get a heads up from Google. And if you have any questions on this at all, you can comment on this. You can email me at pam@pamandmarketing.com. We also have our Ask Stealth webinar coming up, where any marketing agencies, web design agencies, or agencies of any kind are more than happy, you know, to have them join us on that webinar and ask us any questions they may have. That's on February 6th. It's Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern time, which I guess is 10 a.m. Pacific time. I'll be on that webinar answering any questions you want to ask about, well, not any questions you want to ask, any questions about SEO, PPC, or analytics. You can also submit your questions in advance, but I'm happy to just answer anyone's questions on this speed item, this update that's coming down the pike too. Just, you know, leave me a comment or shoot me an email. So thanks for joining me. See you soon.